What does it mean to have a spiritual awakening? Well, by definition, a spiritual awakening is a phenomenon in which one wakes up to their true nature through a deep realization or shift in consciousness. But this experience comes in many shapes and forms, and in this video I will be telling the story of my own.
If you're watching this video right now, that means first and foremost you clicked on it, meaning that you actually, for whatever reason, have an interest in hearing what I have to say. And for that, I cannot thank you enough. So thanks for being here. And if this video resonates with you in any way and you'd like to see more like it in the future, then please show your support by clicking that subscribe button and leaving a comment down below with your thoughts. So this video is going to be a little bit more personal than ones that I've put out in more recent times. I'm going full on transparent with y'all because, well, that's why I started this YouTube channel in the first place, to tell my story in the most authentic way possible. And to be honest, this YouTube channel, much less my passion for self-discovery, would be non-existent if it wasn't for the story that I'm about to tell. So stick around, and I hope that you are able to relate to this video in some form, or even better, I hope that you are able to take away some insights that may serve you somewhere down the line on your own path. Now, if you've been watching me from the very start of my YouTube journey, you will remember a video that I posted back in the day called "Being Depressed is the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me." And that was a sort of less detailed, incomplete version of the story that I originally meant to tell, which is the reason why I'm making this video now. So I guess consider that first video a more censored and less raw version of video that I'm posting today, which can be considered like a director's cut or something. And I'll post a link in the description below to that video so that if you're interested, you can go back and watch that to get some more context. But since you are already here, let's do a quick recap, shall we? Alright, so where to start? My spiritual journey has up to this point been a gradual unfolding over the past few years. It is a journey that has been made up of many ups and downs, twists and turns, and more moments of shifting perspectives and mind-blowing realizations than I could have ever imagined. And it's also been super ordinary and uneventful, depending on how you look at it and define it. And that's really one of the more paradoxical things to spiritual awakenings. One of the defining characteristics of my own, as well as others that I've heard about, is that it's a phenomenon that can be one of the most extraordinary experiences of your life. Yet the essence of it all is so simple that it can just be extremely difficult to put into words. In many ways, your entire world completely changes and transforms, but at the same time, in a lot of ways, nothing changes at all, externally at least. It's like trying to explain what colors look like to a blind person, or what music sounds like to someone who is deaf. Without experiencing it for yourself, all you are really experiencing are these words. And by the way, this video by no means is meant to be a statement of, I am enlightened and I know all of the answers. I don't know why I had to be British there. But to be honest with you, the word enlightenment has always rubbed me the wrong way because it just implies a holier than thou vibe. And from my perspective, I believe that we are all enlightened. It's our natural state. But having a spiritual awakening is having a realization and coming into full understanding of what that truly means. It's when we finally see, or at least get a glimpse of the interconnectedness and the oneness with everything and everyone, and when our identification with mind and body finally ceases. It's through that we are able to wake up and genuinely become witness to who we truly are. But again, to recap on the gist of how I got to where I am now, back in 2016, I was in a relationship that would last for just about a couple years. And again, you can go back and watch that video to get the full story. But in this relationship, long story short, experienced heartbreak for the first time. And it was through this heartbreak that led me into a really dark depression that lasted for about 6 months. And this was the most intense period of struggle and confusion that I've ever experienced in my life so far. But the good news is here I am today, no longer depressed, but it really did take some serious moments of difficulty and lessons to humble me into finally overcoming what I was going through. And so I mentioned all this in that first video, but basically what happened is I became so obsessed with not being depressed anymore that all I did was subconsciously attach myself to the story that I was telling myself of how depressed I was, basically setting myself up to be stuck in it further and further as time went on. And this came with a wide variety of different symptoms and byproducts that literally made me feel like I was going crazy, like I was losing my mind. And essentially that's kind of what was happening, right? My ego was being put through the ringer and it was clawing at the floor trying to stay alive and maintain this kind of idea of control. And I really couldn't tell you why it is that my brain suddenly decided to unload on me during this particular time. I was always the one that was supposed to have their shit together. Emotionally, mentally, I had always considered myself to have a good head on my shoulders, but I guess that this was just simply my time. Now, it is said that in certain cases, strong shifts in consciousness are bred from deep bouts of suffering. So looking back, I owe everything to being the most unhappy I had ever been during this time. But going back to those symptoms that I was talking about earlier, this is something that I don't typically talk about to just anyone. But because of the significance of the lessons that followed, I definitely think they're worth mentioning. Also, to anybody out there watching this that has experienced anything similar to this, hopefully this video can offer you at least some comfort or reassurance. Okay, so along with this heavy state of depression that I was experiencing and all the typical byproducts that you can imagine, so, suicidal ideation, constant lack of joy, emotion, and energy, this was met with a really intense case of anxiety. And so I was having panic attacks on a regular basis. And for the first time ever, I was also experiencing what is called disassociation and depersonalization, meaning that there was a complete disconnect of the self that I thought I was and reality itself. Now, what scared me most out of all of these side effects was when I started to experience what is called intrusive thoughts, something that is very common with people with OCD and really intense anxiety. These intrusive thoughts were completely alien to me. So when I suddenly started having thoughts of violence and death and sick and twisted visualizations of me committing the unspeakable, to be honest with you, I was completely terrified of myself. Even though I was completely horrified of these thoughts and knew that they weren't true. It's like when you rationally know that your thoughts aren't you, yet they are so constant that you begin to have a bit of an existential crisis and wonder if what your thoughts are saying is a reflection of who you truly are. And that's exactly what this whole phase of my life was all about. It was just one big crippling and confusing existential crisis. And as I've told the story before, amidst all of this chaos, I was attending school at the time. And so all of my focus and attention was going into holding on to my sanity and trying to figure out how to be happy and normal again, all while trying to keep up with my schoolwork. And during this time, I stumbled upon many different spiritual teachers on YouTube and started reading copious amounts of philosophy and Buddhist literature. And so this is the phase of this chapter that I like to look at as being a period of grace. Not that I was into praying much at the time, even though I did a couple times out of desperation. I never was one to believe in prayer as being effective or even real. But regardless, I had felt that I was thrown a life raft of sorts, of hope, with these teachings on mindfulness and self-inquiry. And at the time, I was also looking for a therapist, one that I could trust with this spiritual crisis that I was going through. And almost immediately, I discovered one that specialized in mindfulness and had years of experience in meditation and giving spiritual talks. Also, coincidentally, was released himself to teach by Adyashanti, one of the more prominent spiritual teachers that I was listening to on YouTube at the time. So this therapist, who I won't name for reasons of privacy, went on to play a key role in how I overcame my depression. And though I no longer see him for therapy, over the years he has served as a great mentor and friend who I have gone to whenever I have any questions or concerns, confusions that I need some answers to. So I can't stress enough how helpful it can be to have someone in your life that you can trust to go to when wisdom is much needed, whether it be a therapist or a spiritual teacher or a life coach or even just a solid friend. Anyway, whether it was the guidance that I had received from my therapist or the books that I had read, most notably A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. If you haven't read it before, I cannot recommend it enough as being completely essential. Or if it was just about letting this internal collapse play itself out, the one factor that finally healed me and brought me to peace once again was the realization that I am not my ego, the one that I had identified with since, well, forever. I am not my thoughts. I am not the story that I tell myself. And if I'm not the one producing these incessant thoughts, then who am I? Who is this doer that I think that I am, right? Now it quickly became clear to me that I am the awareness behind these thoughts, sensations, and emotions. And obviously you hear this saying quite a bit in the mindfulness community, I am not the body, mind, I am the awareness behind it. And hearing this and understanding it intellectually is easy. But fully experiencing this truth for yourself without a single shred of doubt is beyond mind-blowing and the most peaceful, loving, and liberating experience that I've ever been blessed with. So what this spiritual awakening did for me, other than getting me unstuck from this perpetual state of depression and existential dread that I found myself in, was that it provided me a beacon, a roadmap of sorts for any future difficulties I might face. It gave me an unshakable faith in life and all the ways that it might play out. It gave me a sense of feeling untouchable or invincible, so to speak, to things in life that I might be afraid of or feel to be threatening. And lastly, it gave me a glimpse of what it truly means to let go and to detach from all the ways that we sabotage ourselves and see life as being this scary or unfair place to be. Life just is. And our commentary, our thoughts, and our beliefs are what project it into how we ourselves experience it. Now, as I said before, this has been an ongoing, gradual process, but this spiritual awakening has been a huge pivotal moment of liberation and a shedding of beliefs that no longer serve me. But this doesn't mean that I'm never sad or angry or ever jealous, or that I've given up my life and joined a bunch of monks in the mountains, though that does sound pretty awesome. I am still human after all, and I'm still me. Sort of. I just don't always identify with this identity, or this body, or this mind, or really anything that I can perceive or touch but rather the awareness behind it. And for lack of a better example, this journey has been sort of like a never-ending onion, in that the more layers that get peeled away, the more clear reality becomes, and the more and more doubts tend to dissolve out of thin air. But the work still continues. And as I learn to let go more and more, and to surrender to experiences as they come, not to be confused with complacency, but rather letting life flow on its own terms without your need to control. But the more these layers fall away, the more absolutely beautiful and magnificent life becomes. And to all of you out there who are also on a path of spiritual seeking, and to those desperate for fulfillment and peace, remember that all is well, and that true seeing and realization doesn't come from the thoughts and contemplations that take place in the confines of your own mind, but from my own experience. Letting go and being completely observant and open is the most direct way to what you are seeking. And a saying that has stuck with me for quite some time is, you already are that which you are seeking. But don't take my word for it. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel, and the story that you just heard is how my own journey played itself out. And no two stories are ever the same. But with that being said, I'd like to now hear about your own, so please comment down below with any lessons that you've learned that might be of help to others, or any interesting experiences that you've had that are worth noting. And this is the part of the video where I say thank you again so much for making it to the end of the video. It's been a long one, and we've gone deep, so until next time, I wish you all well. And this is the part of the video where I say thank you for making it to the end. It's been a long one, and we've dove pretty deep this time around. So thanks for being here. And for those of you that are also on the spiritual path, this is a path that is not always easy to navigate. So I hope that this video found you well and offered some insights. And until next time, I wish you all well and much love. Take it easy.